Yeah, so it's get started. Thanks, Manish. So as I explaining, since we are going upper to the pyramid, unit testing, integration testing, and iterative testing, writing effort of writing those testing is quite hard, and based on times, it's quite hard to maintain them as well. So my personal experience, guys, do write a lot of unit testing than integration and EQA testing, because in the end, if your unit is mostly working very good manner, it's you get probably more chance to have less bugs in your feature. So it's very important to know unit testing and its effectiveness, and it helps you to make your code very cleanable, documentationable, so other person, by seeing their test of the logic, they can understand, okay, this function is doing these things and limitation of this function is this. Okay, so unit testing will also help and work as a documentation for a function, right? So it's that important that it will increase your development fast as well. I will tell you why it's increase your development time as well in the coming time. So meanwhile, I'm saying that unit testing is much important for you, for your team, and for the application or the project that you are working on, right? Okay. So far, anything you have concerned? What's the unit testing? What's the pyramid? If you have, you can let me know. I can take a question like for 2 minutes, but only on this part, like on the testing part. Okay, I think one person has raised it in. Is this a compulsory to integrate all three testing? No, it is not compulsory to integrate all three testing. Even it's not required you to write E2 testing or integration testing until your project is quite big, quite large. It's not required that much. It's better you can write, but I think it's a if you got time from a PO or your manager, you can write it. If you don't get, I would not personally recommend to write integration or E2 testing. You can, based on your team leader, what they say, you could write it. But I personally don't recommend to write like E2. All right, let's move ahead regarding. Okay, so what is the importance of testing? Okay, let's learn about it. Okay, don't worry, I'll take one example to make you understand, guy, how to write better test. But let's understand the importance. First of all, it will increase your thinking. Okay, okay. So how the testing will increase our thinking? Like people would say, okay, what's important? Why? How do you increase my thinking? Like, does it make my brain working more faster than I'm thinking now? Yes, in a way it does. Why? See, when you wanted to test someone in the real life as well, you wanted to make them fail, right? You wanted to say, okay, I want this person to fail at one point. So you will think of a lot of scenarios, right? You will say, okay, I'll provide this information to this person. Does this person going to solve that or not? Right? Because your function, whatever function you will write, the function is responsible for solving something, right? That's why you write the function. Correct? So if you think in a way that whatever parameters or whatever inputs you have provided, if you think in a way that, okay, I wanted to fill this function, let's provide this function with a unimaginable input, right? And when you do those kind of things, you will understand what is the limitation of this function. Correct? if you don't if you don't like do unit testing, you will say, okay, my function is solving, my function is giving a plus b, and I'm returning the value 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. I'm okay. But let's say you don't try testing. Let's say what I did is I provide integer dot its max value plus 1. Do you guys know that max value is the maximum value it will one integer can contain is that value, right? If I add plus 1, what the result I will get? Do you know? Like by saying it? No, you can't, because integer limitation is that max value, correct? It can handle only that max value. If you add it even one number extra, it will not handle it. It will give you some random number, which is wrong. The function is fails, right? So when you try in writing unit testing, you will think, okay, if I give max value, what will be my output? Okay, you say, okay, now the thing is different. Now I'm getting a random value, which is a wrong for my function. So you will check if a is int max or not. If it max, you will return. You will say, okay, you are providing limitation. Now you see, you are transforming production level code, correct? Because in production, you would have unimaginary inputs from users, correct? Like even SDK, even let's say Google sent their SDK, right? And we know how much well unit tested it is, correct? Google write a lot of testing. Even then, we can see in our crash analytics, we are getting room exception. How does it possible? Like, even after Google tested very well the room, how is getting the crash? Because the users has multiple devices and they have multiple scenarios in their phone, right? So it can give a scenario where that function is not written a test for, correct? If you know those scenario earlier in your, like while writing a feature or function, you will definitely try to block that bugs to be happen in the function, right? So that's how the unit testing or testing increase your thinking, correct? All right, let's go to the next point. And the next point is quite tricky as well. The point is that unit testing is also increase your development time, or the time where you push your code in production. Okay, people would say, okay, yeah, unit testing is extra code that I need to write. How does it increase my time to push the code in production? I'll explain you. So you will see, when you write a feature, when any feature you write, okay, you write a code, okay, you give it to QA for testing, and QA comes up with a lot of bugs, right? And then you write again, and this cycles goes on and on, right? Because you are only testing by manual testing, right? You are saying, okay, I'm clicking on this button, I'm getting the data from network, that's it. Like, you don't test how parsing is done. Let's say your server is getting a different value, like you didn't test those things, right? You are just doing a manual testing to check, okay, if it's working from my side, it should work in production as well. But QA finds something else, and you will get the code, and you'll do bugs and all the things again. But when you do testing, when you think, like from this point, when you think all the cases, all the corner cases from your side, you will try to block it, and it's a less bugs that QA will get a hard time to find a bug, right? Because you have tested your most of the functions, right? And you know your function's limitation as well. You will tell the QA, okay, bro, if you are testing this part, remember this is the limitation. We cannot go far from this. Now QA will be testing, and it will finding less bug, like one bug at one time. It's a scenario, like it's only one bug, and you will fix it, and you will test again. You will test again, and you will see, okay, my other testing is working fine, my new testing is working good. Now tech QA will not able to find it, it will go to the production, correct? Now you see how the unit testing increase your development and production, like going into production time, correct? So unit testing is also important, and also gives you a power to make development more faster. I know from by starting doing it, it's a little bit, it will definitely, I'm not saying that it will directly will do your coding in 2 days. No, it will take at some time to understand how to write a good testing, and then when you hang off it, when you know how to do it, it will a valid piece of code, and it will definitely improve your development production time much more faster. Okay, next. Okay, so next is that your documentation. So somebody says, okay, how does the testing will work as a documentation? I can write comments, right, in my function as well. Yes, you can write comment in your function, but the function comment is only saying what is this function doing. It is not stating what is the limitation and where it can be failed. It cannot say that. The comments is only been putting by any developer to understand, okay, what is this function is doing. Is it only for that, right? But your testing code will show okay, to show any other developer, okay, this is the limitations, this the inputs it can handle, and this is the output it can get, right? And all the tests that you had written for that function, that particular function, will write it as a documentation, right? Now people would understand the logic much faster because they know what would be the success, what would be the failure, right? All those things people would know, and they eventually understand your logic as well. So it will work as a documentation for any other developer, correct? Okay. Next thing is it helps you for the maintenance part. Okay, definitely. If you like, you have written a test, like you have written a lot of tests for a feature, right? And somebody, yes, somebody from POs or maybe some your boss would say, your manager would say, okay, I wanted to have one change in this feature, and it should not affect the user much in the production. So how would you ensure it? Like, because you have written your test, you are quite confident my test is not failing for the user, and if I make any changes, you have written your test, right? So when you make a change, you will write your test again, and now all your hard work will be showing here. Okay, since if all the things runs, that means you are pretty quite confident. Okay, now my last testing is working, and with my new changes they are also working. You don't have to test more oftenly, like by manually, right? Because you trust your code, your testing. So maintenance is also get handled by your testing code. Now you are more confident to say, okay, and make these changes, it will not affect the user because you have already written the test cases for the other scenarios, right? So you don't have to go and manually test those things. Also, it will reduce your time, and it will also make code more maintainable, right? So if and somebody would change something, they will first test, they will make the change, and they will run the test, and they suddenly know, okay, this change affect this test, and test will let them know, okay, this part of code is affecting because of your changes. So test will also make your code maintainable, right? Last but not least, it's confidence and job satisfaction. Okay, so when you write test, you are quite confident about your coding, about your feature, about your function, right? That this function would not fail. If it's fail, it might be because of this one, because this limitation got exceeded. You have a lot of things to tell to other peoples that why it's got fixed, why it goes failed, what is the reason. You might more confident to tell, okay, it will not fail in this scenario, I'm sure of it, because you have written a lot of test about it, right? And internally, when you write test for your code and it will run in production very well, you will get your job satisfaction, right? Definitely, like when you do hard work on your code, on both sides, on testing, on your main coding side, it will give you a job satisfaction. Believe me, you will be very happy, because if next developer comes up, when you leave the organization, they will be thanking you a lot because you have written the test for them as well, right? So it's a win-win situation for both of you, for you and for your organization as well. Hope you guys understand the importance of unit testing. I'm taking 2 more minutes to get the any questions you guys have for me, so that I can answer, and then we can move to the next section, next point.
Ankit, can you repeat a second point? Just coder want to know.
Which one?
Second point. Second. It's
Second.
a basic reduce your cycle, that all point. Development cycle.
Sure, Manish.
Yeah.
Okay, so the second point was we increase the development and production time, the time you take to deploy your code into production. So what normally happened is, when you write a code for a feature, you will test from your side manually, and you give the feature to the QA team, and QA team will test it, and they will file you a lot of bugs, like maybe yeah, not too many, but yeah, bugs. When you write it again, now you will only test for that bug, right? And then you will give code to the QA team, right? And QA team is still able to find the code, right? So this cycle goes and goes, and it definitely increases your time to deploy your code into a production. But when you write a code, you are quite enough. You're quite, understand. Well, you're quite confident about your code. You know, okay, this would not fail because you have written all your test cases, like all the corner cases where it can be failed. Now you know in and out about your feature, right? You work as a QA. So when you give the code to the QA team, and you will get a less bug. Definitely, you try it out, you will get less bug, and it might be in one cycle you will able to get your code into a production. So which one is better? Definitely this one, because it's a good thing for manager as well that you are creating less bugs and you are able to push the code production in less time than expected, right? Hope you understand this part, Manish.
Yeah, Ankit. Just Code have asked that question. Yeah, I think Just Code you have understand your this point, right?
Just code, yeah, bro, tell me.
Yeah, he's saying yes.
All right,
Now we can proceed.
awesome. Okay, so I know you guys are bored by his seeing the only talking and talking. Let's move to the real part. All right, let's see some code. Okay, some basic one. I'm not going into any specific library here. Before going into the code, let me tell you one thing is that there are multiple libraries for doing unit testing in the Android. All right. For normal testing, you guys can use JUnit, JUnit 4, and maybe 5. You can use 5. There's no issue. Even you get a lot of good thing from 5. So I personally recommend to use JUnit 5. I will not go into why 5, why not 4. I'm here only talk about the unit testing, not the specific library or anything. For assertion, you guys can use. There are multiple libraries on Kotlin. Like if your project is totally in Kotlin, you can go for those assertion. There are a lot of good things in those assertion libraries. If your code contain Kotlin and Java, you can use assert J. Okay, or maybe truth library you can use from Google. This is from Google. And for mocking the for mock of a object, you can use Mockito. Okay, or you can use Mockey as well. Mockey is only recommended if you're using Kotlin or coroutine, all those things, because mock got lot of things, lot of features in order to test coroutines and Kotlin specifically. So if your project totally into Kotlin, go with Mockey. It is much better than the Mockito, but it's I'm not saying much better in terms of functionality. Both has their own advantage and advantages, but I'm saying if your code completely in Kotlin and coroutines, your guys are following up, so go for Mockey. If you are having Java, RX Java, all those things, you guys can go Mockito. And you can also take my advice. You can go any of them. Both of them are great. They are quite updated as well. So there is no issue in that part. All right. So let's go to the the testing part. Okay. So let's create a addition function. Okay. I have one. Let's say this is a util class. Okay, let me get singleton. Okay. All right. Let's say you have one end. You have one end. Sorry, I'm writing it down. All right. The end and all right. So this return would be a plus b. So what is so this is our function. Let's say this is a sample function for addition, right? So this is the newbie code that someone would come and write the code. Now let's write the code first. This is a code is completed. Let's do one testing of it. Size of font. What's it? Right, I think. Preferences. Okay, sorry. I'm already in font. Use custom font. Oh, it's not increase the. This is the intelligence side theme, right?
Go to down. There is a presentation font. I think that is one. Yeah,
Presentation
go
font you're saying, right? This one.
that one. Yeah.
Okay. This will also not increase.
So,
Yeah. Now it's clear, guys. You guys able to see it?
yeah. Double shift. They are saying double shift. Use double
The
shift.
mouse wheel. Yeah, this is right. Mouse wheel. Yeah, yeah. This is because of my mouse wheel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's quite big now. All
Yeah.
right, guys. So yeah, I've used it literally in this normal coding, and from here I'll and now since this is okay, so I'll explain one more thing. You can see there are two testing files, two testing folder in the project, which is Android test and test. The Android test folder is only responsible for if you are having connection or required any kind of object from Android side, either it's a context or any other object from Android, like you are testing for room, which is Android component and all those things. Yeah, like view models. So all the test will go under the Android test. And if you're writing only functional testing, you will write it here in another normal test. Okay. Okay. I'll increase from here as well. So this is the example unit test. Okay, you can write whatever name you want. Correct. So do not go with the name class. Okay, now this is the I'm using test JUnit 5. Okay, this is Jupyter JUnit 5 using truth for asserting the assertion. Okay. All right. So let's just like write the test from start. So you have to write test annotation before writing the test. Okay, so how your code? I explained one more thing before I'm doing coding. I was explaining you guys is that how your code is more documentation, right? So this is how you can make your code more documentation. Do not write success, success addition, right? Don't write this one. Write there is a very good way to make your testing code as a documentation is that use the backticals like this one, and here you can write your proper because your testing is not going into production, right? So you don't have to follow the production code. You can write your description here that adding two numbers and getting success result. You can write it here. There's no issue in that, right? You can see how how much description I can get by just reading the name of this function. Correct. So this is the adding two numbers and getting the success result. So try to use this way when you're writing the unit testing, so that it will be more descriptive to the other developers and for yourself as well, right? When you write test and after 1 or 2 months when you come back to the same test, you don't have to see the logic. You can also see only the title of your test code and you can understand, okay, what is this test supposed to do, right? So okay, so let's say I have the one result I will get from this utils, right? Dot add, correct? And you have 3, 5. Okay, we all know the result, and we can use assert that, and we can get the result here, and we know equals is equal, and which is would be the 8. Correct. This is a simple test code that you can write, and you can run it. Since unit testing is quite fast, it will run around milliseconds. You don't have to wait. Like normally, what you guys do, you just run your code from here, right? And you wait for app to be built and install into the phone. That's a lot of wastage of time. So when you write the unit test, you don't have to wait that much. It will run in JVM itself. So yeah, you can see only 31 milliseconds it takes to run this code, right? This a success code. Okay, we can write the to check. Okay, now how to think in a way that to cover most of corner cases. How you think in a corner cases? Okay, let's think in a corner case. You have one function which is addition. This is two positive numbers. Now try to go different way. Okay, I pass two positive numbers. Okay, let's give the input is negative, getting addition of them, right? Let's say I provide -3 now. So I know the answer would be -8, correct? So this is another case that you have to think of. So you can write it down here and you can run the test as well for that particular function. You can write the test for whole class from here. Okay. By writing a code, you can test, you can see in the output as well, the description of your test. Input is negative, getting addition of them, right? So this is the one, correct? Now, but the next thing I can think of as a corner case for this addition function, normal people would think, okay, this is additional function. What would be the corner cases? There is still a lot of corner cases that you guys can think of. One you can think of, let's say, if I provide a string value and then convert it into an integer, is it going to work or not? That is also a case, right? So you can write a test for it as well. Correct? Provide string, contain a number and get addition result, right? So this is also one case. And try to write a lot of corner cases for your code so that you guys get more confident that this is the function and this is the function would run in these case scenarios. Scenarios like when providing the two positive numbers, two negative numbers, a number who contains string, but a number string. Let's say I have 5.2int like 8, and now you check the result. Is equal to 30, right? Let's check for it. Okay, this is cool. We are getting the results. Now let's say from this thinking, now my thinking of string, I have another thinking that if I provide a known number containing value, what I will get from this function, I can test as well. Like as a normal people, I would say in my mind, I don't know the result, but when you do testing, you can directly check it because it's quite fast. You can see how many time it takes to run. It's very less time. It took very less time to run. So you can test every cases. Either it's a foolish case or it's a very great case. You can test all of them, right? Number containing string, string containing string. That means it's not 5, it's S here. So when I try the test here, when I try to run this test, you can see the result, which is okay, the number exception, right? So your code will not work for non-number string, right? Correct? So somebody now in your code, what you will do, yes, you can know that this function is also only getting string with numbers, not string with string. So we'll know that this is the limitation, right? So you cannot pass string, correct? So what you can do, what you will do in your production code, you will try to check if you're getting a data from server, you will check and you try to make it as a catch. Now, correct? Let's say this function is got triggered from the input from the server. So before, what you guys will do, you will just get the value from the server and you will run the a plus b. But now you understand, let's say if server gives the string with non number value. So now you have written the try catch, right, for your code. Now this try catch you will write it for your code, for your addition code. Correct. So now you can see how much like whatever data it will get from you know, 1 second. Yes, any value like any string it will get. Dot to string, sorry, dot to int, comma 9. Now your code will not break because you have write the try catch, because you know your function cannot run if it's not int. Now it's more like a production code. Correct. I'm just telling you as an example. It's not a recommended one. Like it's not recommended to write this kind of function, those like write these things. But I'm just explaining you the example, right? The test help you to write more production based code. Correct. And now you can test as well for, you know, int max value as well. And when you do test for them, what you can do here, you can check if a is equal to int dot max value, or b is equal to int dot one thing, guys, int dot max value. Yeah, you know that if any of the integer or input it max value, it will provide a random number. Correct. So you will try to tackle that. You will check a case here. If any of them is a max value, throw exception. No, write it. You have provided int limitation. Correct. And you will test it as well. Like let's test it for it as well. Test dot fun input is int max value. Okay. Value only integers you can provide. So now what you can do here, you can check assert throws. Correct. Your number format, or maybe your exception is kept throwing. You can assert that as well. You can check if it's throwing or not, and you will pass util while result from util dot add, and add is int dot max value comma 1. Right, 1. Now ideally, if you don't write test, what you guys are going to do, only return a plus b. Correct. And you will get random value. So when you write test, you know one of, and it both of inputs should not containing any maximum or minimum value of integer. Correct. So you have also written a tackle case for that. So now if I run the test case for this one, you will see it passes. Correct. And now you can see your a plus b is more like a production based code. Now it's handling more corner cases. Why it's able to more handling more able to handle more corner case? Because you have written a test for it. You know in and out of this function what could be happen, right? You know the corner cases. So this helps to make your code more effective and less bugs. Correct. Okay, so this is a simple example. You can write a test as much as possible, right? I'm not saying that you should write 100 tests, but try to cover a lot of corner cases that you can think of. That would be beneficial for your functions as well. Okay. So far, anyone has any question, any concern about it?
Yeah, Ankit, a few questions on the chat. So basically, just coder want to know कि you have imported a util library inside a test.
Okay. Sorry, can you come again, Manish?
You have import util library question mark. you want to know.
The util library. Before that, I think a lot of person is saying, what is the assert? Okay, assert is normally means is that it help you to say that what is your expectation and what is your result, right? Assert is that. Okay, so assert is that means this is your result and this is your expectation. It should match both of them. If it not, assert is wrong. That means your testing is wrong. Correct? So assert is for that, like just to match your expectation to the result. Okay, first you will see the result here and expectation here. Based on library, it could be like expectation would be here and result would be there. But and in the end, only two things would be there. As I explained in the starting of the unit testing talk, I said that testing means your expectation should meet your expected input should meet your expected output. Correct? So you have given your expected input here and you have performed your test, you have performed your function, correct, which is addition, and this is your expectation. Correct? So this is your input, this is your result, and this is your expectation. If your expected input get you the expected output, that means assertion is positive, the test is pass. If your expected input is not matching your expected output, that means your expectation is wrong. For example, if I don't write this code here, and if I provide, this is for example, I'm just doing one example. If I provide int dot max value, and your expectation is int dot max value, correct? You can see your test is failed because you can see the result here. What is your expectation? This is your expectation, correct? But it was minus. That is, you see, max value is the integer maximum value, but what you're getting minus. So this is your limitation, correct? So let's apart from limitation, you can understand, right, what is the assertion mean? Assertion would help you to meet your expectations, correct? Hope you guys understand this part. Just code, Sahil, you understand, right? util.kt file for. Okay. Util.kt is a normal class. You could say it's a singleton class just to write a function. You can have your own classes. Your normal production based code will be here. So util class is that. Or maybe you ask some other utils. Okay. Okay. So assertion has lot of functions. You can test your list, your mapib, hash map, your lot of things you can check in the libraries itself. I will try to give a talk on some particular library that would be beneficial for your project, but that's for another talk. I'm not going to talk for them in this talk. Okay. Okay. So far, anyone have any questions, guys? I hope I'm not boring you guys.
Yeah,
All right.
guys, please mute yourself and ask a question if you have.
Yes, Paul. Yes, bro. One more thing. Yes. We have said we will use the Truth library for Kotlin. Truth is specifically is not for Kotlin. I think there are code test karke. There's a one library which is open source, which got a lot of great assertion functions. You can test that one. We are not using it. Yeah, we are using truth. I think assert, that is a truth function. You can see here, and we are using assertion from truth for now for this, for this session. All right. Okay. Let's move ahead. Last few more things before we can wrap up this unit testing part. One is that what kind of testing that we can do from our side, and little bit about TDD in the end. Okay, TDD is a test-driven development. If you guys don't know, if you have other functions same way, we need to write unit test. Yes, it's ideally you to write unit test for each functions. For having all those things that I've explained, the importance. And if you don't write, it's basically you don't want your project to be maintainable. So it's important to write, at least try to write, guys, try to write two functions, success or failure. That will also at least give you confidence, like, okay, by a very short amount of time you will know, okay, my function is working. It's success and this is a failure. Correct? Try to write at least 2 or 3 functions, just to make a habit. It's a good thing, a very good thing, believe me. Okay, so what kind of testing is that? Okay, one testing you can do is logic based test. Okay, logic based. What is a behavioral based testing? Okay, so I'll explain what is the logic based and behavioral based. Let's go with the first the logic based. So you have one class, a lot of class in your project that contains a function whose main works just to compute something, right? Computation means either converting from one array list to another array list, some kind of mapping, right? So because this function is doing some kind of logic based. So as I explained in the A plus B, you can test the logic. You can give the inputs, the array list on your choice, and you can see the output, right? You can alter the data of array list as well. So that is some kind of logic based testing, correct? Logic based unit testing. And second things comes as a behavioral testing. Okay, what is a behavioral testing? Okay, let's see. In your presenter or view model class, you have view model, right? A lot of time people write view models and presenter. What this class will do, it calls the API and get the result, right? And if it's error, the error will get propagated, like you will show the error. So there is a two thing, result or error. You call the API. So behavioral testing is what is the behavioral testing? So in your code, let's say you have make a function get post. You have a function and you have written a code here to go get post, and you are waiting for here success and here for error. There are two blocks. Okay, on success, what you guys do, you will call a view dot show post. Okay, and on error, you guys will call the method show error. Okay, and there is no logic, you guys. If you guys can see here, there is no logic. What is the logic here? You cannot provide the input. So how do I test it? So this kind of function required behavioral testing. So what does the behavioral testing mean? So behavioral testing mean is, if you call this function, does this method is get called, right? Let's say you have write a function, testing function for success. So how do you ensure that function it got tested, like it's success? You will check, verify. Okay, so this is where the verification kind of method comes in, which will check if view dot show post it get called or not. You will only check for this behavior. For failure case, you will check for for error. Hope you guys understand like what I'm trying to say here. This kind of testing you will do as a behavioral testing. Understand? So there are two basic kind of testing that you guys can do. One is a logic based testing. Second is behavioral testing, to ensure inside that function get post, those other functions are getting called. Correct? Functions. So, and also sometime what people will do, this is the open function that will it can get access from object, but some function is private function. You cannot access it right from your object. How do you test it? So you test it by a function who is calling this private function, that function which is public function is calling this private function. You can only test by that way, right? You you can send input here, and you will first check by verify if this private function is getting called or not. Correct. So this is beneficial for this kind of testing. Correct. Okay. How just going last for the TDD. TDD would be the norm. I will not go depth into the TDD, test driven development, but I will point out few things. Before that, if you guys have any question for last minute, I would happily able to take it. How can we write end-to-end integration testing? End-to-end integration testing, you can write it mostly get written in Android test. Okay, because you wanted to call your APIs and you wanted to get the result, and you will check if UI component is getting called, right? So this is the whole full feature. End-to-end means your whole feature you are testing at once. So this is the testing which only be written for maybe only for one test case or two test case, because it contains a lot of code. Okay, so you are calling your API and then you are getting data, then you check if the particular UI get updated or not. So that is called the E2E testing. If you want, I can make another session on the E2E testing or integration testing as well. Integration means you have two functions. Let's say you're getting API from server and you are mapping it mapping it into another data class, and then there is another function who is mapping this data into another data class. So what you can do into integration test is that you can call these two methods one by one, and you can test your final result is working or not. That means you are testing 2 or 3 units at one time, right? So this is E2A integration testing. Life cycle. I don't understand the context in this test for life cycle. If you can elaborate your,
I think we want to know if I want to know ki this function is triggered when the life cycle is triggered, so something like that.
Yeah, you can do that definitely. Those are specifically, I think, for Android related stuff, right? For Android lifecycle or not. So those text you can get it from Android test. You will get the object like lifecycle observer. Those kind of thing you will get in Android. Why I'm not encourage you guys to write UI test specifically, because Google gives a lot of effort to test a lot of components in UI, even in dialogue or maybe in single progress bar. They have written a lot of tests to ensure it should work in every devices, because this is library, guys. Okay, libraries means it should able to handle every single cases, because there are a lot of different kind of devices, different kind of configuration, different kind of customization on OS side. So I'm pretty much sure you will not get affected on the UI test. But yeah, but if your team is able to do it, it's a good thing. But it's I would say it's hypothetical question is based on your team and what your decision is. But yeah, unit testing are definitely and 100% recommended to do it. E2 and integration is okay. You can do it, like if you have time.
Yeah, I will add some more point on that end-to-end testing. Guys, if you have a very vast Android app, like you have many of touch point to go to that feature. So basically, then you can go for the end-to-end testing. Or if you have a basically feature inside a very long stack of pages, right? So I think for
Yes,
that,
correct. Like
yeah. So
like
for
like
that, yeah, Ankit, go ahead.
like Unacademy 50 pages. You
Yeah,
cannot write test for 250 pages, guys. Like
yes,
it's take part of the time would be a lot of time you will waste your kind of like invest. You can yes, it would be beneficial if you try to do it for you from first part.
yeah,
That's why I'm saying hypothetical is a discussion question.
yeah.
I would not go into that into this part.
Yeah,
Okay.
so just if you want to test a one feature, it's a basically it's a very difficult to you have to basically log in, then you have to go to the that page, then you have to go to the test that feature. So yeah, there's a lot more test cases you are if triggering in your mind, or you don't have time, then I will say, okay, go for the end to end testing and do it. So it will test your yani ki that page, that feature end to end. Basically you can you have a less bug at that time. So yeah, you can go for that. But if you have a basically you if you have a splash screen, so don't try to end to end testing for that. It's not needed for that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Manish, for this part. So
Yeah,
last point
well,
is TDD. TDD is test-driven development. It's kind of fashion now in Android community. People would say go for TDD. What TDD is actually is test-driven development. That means write your test first and then write your feature after that, right? From me, it doesn't matter. Try to test first or last. Try to write test at least, right? Try to last test. It doesn't matter if you do before and after. I agree, it do have their advantages as well. Like if you write test before, right? If you write test before, you will think of lot of cases first of all for your requirement. So your test visibility will increase when you write test first. If you give the preference on working on feature, if you give preference of your testing ability first, it will definitely increase your test visibility. TDD does play a very good role uh, in make your mind in a way to think more corner cases if you write test before, definitely. But try to at least write test first and then try to follow this kind of pattern in your project. Next, TDD would provide you all those testing features that I have explained as earlier. All the testing feature. It will TDD is also a very costly. Why I'm saying this costly? Because it takes your time. Okay, it takes your time, and it will affect on your like overall your agile. If you're following the agile overall planning of your feature, because doing testing is hard for the first time or second time person who was doing it. So TDD takes time in terms of production code, or you're planning basically. Okay. So it's a team effort basically, and it can be a solo effort as well. If you are following TDD, you will see after some time its benefit of it from your own good. You have more visibility and you are able to provide uh, feature timing as well. Like when someone asks you how much time it will take to complete the feature, if you have good understanding of each feature by writing a lot of tests, you will definitely give them a best possible estimated time for that part. So TDD, it has its own chapter of discussion. So I just wanted to introduce you guys the TDD. It does affect your coding style. It does improve your code quality as well at same point of time, because if you're writing test, you will think of scenario, or you will try to write more efficient code. Okay. So I now go to close this part on this topic. We will discuss TDD and testing more often. If you have any question, you can put out. And that's all from my side, guys, on the unit testing. Hope you guys understand at least 30-40% of it, and you can try out doing unit testing in your project. So thank you so much, guys, for attending this session. If you guys have any question, just let me know. I'll happy to take it.
yeah, thank you, Ankit. Thank you for giving us this awesome session. It adds a more context in my knowledge. Yeah, it's very good. Thank you for giving.